Welcome to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat, a transformative live stream TV show that brings wellness within everyone's reach. Each episode, featuring expert guests, delves into crucial topics like hormonal health, effective detoxification, and stress management through nervous system optimization. Gain practical insights into nutrition, supplementation, efficient workouts, and biohacking tools to enhance mental and physical health. So now, please welcome the host of Hack Your Health, Dr. Nat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. I'm your host, Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp. Super excited tonight, as I am for all of our shows, really. But one of the reasons I'm super excited about this show is that it is a topic that I don't know too much about. And when it comes to health, I like to think that I know quite a bit. So what is the topic for tonight? It's about Ayurvedic medicine and how it can help with our health. And our guest tonight is Emily Glaser. And I'll read Emily's bio in a second. But what we want to cover tonight, what are the foundation of Ayurvedic medicine? We're going to understand the basic principles. She's going to explain the different type of doshas. We're also going to talk about food as medicine, because a big component of the practical tips of Ayurvedic medicine has to do with food. And we're also going to learn about different routines that we can integrate in our daily lives. So I'm excited to learn alongside with you, because this is all new to me. So hi, Emily, how are you?
Hello, I'm well, Dr. Nat. It's really good to be here. Thank you.
I'm excited. So let's read your bio, because I think, and we're going to chat a little bit about your story, because you and I had a prior chat, and I always like to understand where the health practitioner is coming from, because we all have, many of us have pretty different story and pretty amazing story that are empowering. So you are the author of a book, which I have right here. I always have to go the other way here. So awesome book, which I've gone through. So is the author of the Ayurveda for Women, obviously has profound knowledge in Ayurvedic medicine and its application to women's health. She has a passion for holistic healing and has dedicated her career to exploring the intersection of traditional Indian medicine and contemporary wellness practices. So that's really interesting. Her book has tons of recipes. We're probably going to talk about that tonight. It is a comprehensive guide that offers practical advice on using food as medicine to balance the body, mind, and spirit. Emily's approach is deeply rooted in the belief that understanding one's unique body type can lead to more personalized and effective health strategies. Amen to that. Emily holds a certification in Ayurvedic medicine and has spent several years in India studying under renowned Ayurvedic doctors. Through workshops, seminar, and personal coaching, she supports professional women struggling with stress, burnout, and anxiety, and cultivate resilience and inspire self-care, enabling them to, experience to be joyful, juicy, sensual nature, and embrace the sweetness of life. I love this. She's also a respected speaker and consultant. She contributes to a lot of publication and speaks at wellness events. So I think you get the gist that our guest today has the credential to tell us a lot more about Ayurvedic medicine. So Emily, as I said, tell us how you got started with this. Was it a personal journey, at the beginning for you?
Yeah, it definitely was a personal journey. I was, at the time, I was actually working full time as a nurse. And I was interested in just incorporating more herbal medicine, essentially, in my own healthcare routine. And there happened to be just the literally Institute of Ayurvedic Medicine, which was just down the road from where I was living in New Mexico at the time. And they offered yoga as part of their curriculum, like a mandatory class you had to take. And at the time I was doing quite a bit of yoga. And so I figured, what could this hurt, right? This place already has like a level of consciousness that I'm interested in. And so I ended up engaging in the full curriculum that the school offered and studied there under my teacher, Dr. Vasant Lad. And that kind of just, I originally went into it interested in just my own health and supporting my own well-being, but it pretty much, opened the gates of destiny. And I ended up shortly after that, spending a considerable time in India, studying with my teacher, Dr. Ramadas there. And before I knew it, it was pretty much my life's calling.
And now I think you spend your time in New Mexico and in India as well, right?
Yes, I live half of the year in New Mexico and half of the year in India.
That's awesome. So you're getting truly the feel of both worlds. So that's so cool. All right, so let's dig right into it. Can you explain the core principle of Ayurveda? Because it is a different approach, and that's, I think we learn so much from the different practices. So what are the core principles?
Absolutely. Well, Ayurveda, we understand to be essentially the first world medicine, and say that all medicines to this day have some root, some influence in some way, shape, or form through Ayurveda, by Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is essentially at its nucleus a spiritual science, at its very essence. And part of that understanding is I would say the core principle of Ayurveda that's most important to understand is this knowledge that the macrocosm reflects the microcosm. And so there's this understanding when we think about like health and healing, that our world, our inner world is a reflection of, the company we keep, the environment that we live in our home, the seasonal changes that we experience, through the calendar year. And it even gets extended out into the cosmic reality of the phases of the moon, right? And so there's this idea that there is this intimate relationship with the natural world that is part of our health and part of how we can really attain, vitality and good energy and true healing in our life. So there's this really, really beautiful comprehension that Ayurveda holds. And I think underneath that, there's this idea that Ayurveda wants you to align in such a way that that you can really come into understanding of like, what is the bigger purpose of your life? And, what is the purpose of this current incarnation? What are you here to serve? And so it really is there's a scientification to the understanding. And we say about the study of Ayurveda that, it's something that you can spend your life, really learning and discovering, and you'll never really reach the end of the knowledge that it holds. And yet, on the other hand, it's so simple that you could teach it to a child and they would totally get it, right? Because it is, again, about like harmony with nature and how do we harmonize in the best way possible with our surroundings and our outer environment.
Oh, that's amazing. So in that sense, how does Ayurveda understand the cause of disease? And I always kind of hate to label things, but that's how society labels things with disease. And I love when we separate the words dis-ease, being out of ease. So how does Ayurveda understand dis-ease?
Mm-hmm. Well, Ayurveda has three primary like root causes that we understand, starts to develop exactly what you said, this idea of a dis-ease. And the first is the misuse of the senses. And so, right, what does that mean? So an example of this would be, if you are struggling with like diet, with like a particular something that you're eating and you need to make a change, right? We could all probably attest to that being true for us at some point in our life, but yet we keep continuing on with this love affair, right? With this food that just isn't good for you and obviously no longer serving you. And this, right? Yet you're drawn and attracted to this thing that is just throwing you off of balance, right? So, but there's this like magnetic pull, and this is causing you to overindulge in what we would say would be the sense organ of taste. And that over time, right, will develop a disequilibrium in the physiology in the body. Another example of this could be just eating when you're not hungry, right? That would be a misuse of our sense organs. Or perhaps if we consider the sense of hearing, like waking up first thing in the morning, which Ayurveda considers to be a really precious moment, right? The beginning of any day is kind of having a strong influence on our consciousness. And if you wake up first thing in the morning and you start listening to news and you're just kind of filling your consciousness with like negativity and fear, right? That would be very different than getting up and out of bed and listening to a beautiful piece of music, or just appreciating the silence and the singing of the birds. So this is, how we consider the misuse of the sense organs. And Ayurveda really wants to help you align your sense organs to, what is wholesome for you, right? And everybody has a different experience of that, but within the natural flow of nature, to have just a good relationship with our senses.
That's interesting.
Yeah, right. And so the second root cause of disease is this idea of the word is prajna parad. And prajna parad is a Sanskrit word, and quite literally it gets broken down as parada, which means action. And in the Sanskrit language, anytime you put an a before the word, so aparada, it kind of negates the meaning. So it turns into a legal action. And then prajna is intellect. So we've got this idea of prajna parad as like mistake of the intellect, or even crimes against wisdom could be a way to describe it. And this is this sense of just knowing you shouldn't do something, but doing it anyways. And this could happen on subtle levels. It could also happen on gross levels, and gross meaning like literally obvious choices you make that don't support your life, right? This could be, creating a lot of debt in your, financial reality, or you're maintaining a relationship that has a level of toxic abuse. These are gross ways of, prajna parad. The more subtle expression of this would be, perhaps not trusting your intuition, right? And kind of going against like a deeper knowing or a deeper sense that you have. And that this is a way that we start to really come into disease in our life, when we behave in this way. And so, this is a perspective certainly that, really can raise the bar, right? When we are thinking about what it means to really be a healthy being. And so Ayurveda offers this idea of how can we really attune to just these realities that we might not think of, firsthand when we're considering just our health and wellness. So these are the first two examples, and finally the third is what is called parinama, and parinama is it's about time and motion. And there's this really basic sense that as time goes by, you get older and the body degenerates just kind of in a natural way, right? So there's that sense of disease. But parinama has to do more with biological time, not so much like linear time. So there's this idea that biological time has a lot to do with the motion of our mind. And so if you happen to be a person who is subject to worry and anxiety, for example, Ayurveda understands that you are literally accelerating the aging process and increasing this third root cause of disease, parinama. So this is a really good motivation, right, in our lives to find ways to be less anxious and to be less worried about what's unfolding in front of us. And when the mind moves more quickly, there's a sense that the breath accompanies that quick movement, and there's certain understandings within even the sciences of Ayurveda that we only have a certain amount of breaths that we're given in this lifetime. And so the faster we breathe and the quicker our mind moves, right, the quicker we accelerate the aging process. So Ayurveda really wants you to sync your natural biorhythm into a more harmonious relationship with nature herself, and by doing so, really reducing the anxiety and the worry.
Yeah,
God
it's
willing.
wow. This is I like I said, I had no idea that it looked at diseases that way, and I think,
Mm.
if we look, is health the absence of disease, and the answer is no, right? And it's so complex, and I think it's bringing it into three different light with, the three different types of root of disease. And it's just listening to you, and it's just like, wow, it just makes sense. It's something that we probably intuitively know, but it's never been presented to us that way. So I that's very interesting.
Well, and I will share that, there's also, from this perspective, what Ayurveda says is the primordial cause of disease, which is like the ultimate. And that is this idea of that we have forgotten who we are, that as spirits, incarnated in this human body, we have lost connection, right, to our greater relationship to, the divine, we could call it. And so this idea of wanting to be able to use the principles of Ayurveda for greater health and longevity, right? Ayurveda on one level is a medical system, and the traditional medical system of India, but on another level, it is a very profound mystical science that can really, again, assist you in awakening to your truth and to, again, your purpose in this life. So there's a lot of material to work with for sure.
Wow, no, that's super interesting. So, like I said, I don't know too much, but I have heard of doshas, and I think we wanted to share the three types of doshas and explain, because I think people will try to, probably identify themselves with the different ones, and then we can dig a bit deeper. So, let's go over some of the doshas.
Yes, yeah. So doshas, for many of you listening, are probably maybe what you have associated with Ayurveda, and the word dosha is a Sanskrit word that's kind of hard to translate. Actually, it means like fault or mistake. But essentially, the doshas, right? There's three of them. We've got Vata, Pitta, and Kapha dosha, and they are these kind of these bioenergies, we could say, that are create a certain reality in the body, a certain movement, a certain expression in the body. I use the word reality, but one of the things we say is that the doshas are a way to describe a process in the body. It isn't exactly reality, but it's a way to start understanding, right, what is going on within us. And there's an understanding that comes from I think Chinese medicine, or that lineage around the word is Naquan, and Naquan is this ability to kind of to have inner vision, to be able to go within ourselves and really understand and feel what's happening inside. And I believe that part of what we need to be able to do for our own health and for our own well-being is to have a real relationship with what is happening within this body. And of course, we need doctors and we need healthcare practitioners to support us, obviously, at moments in our lives when we need that support. But we want to show up, well aware of what we're feeling and, what has been unfolding and happening. And so this idea of understanding the doshas is a way to have a language, I would say, to kind of describe the reality that is happening within the body. So Vata, let's start with Vata dosha. Vata is an energetic principle that is about movement, right? It moves things within the physiology on a really basic level. And we say that Vata is governed by the elements of air and ether. And so it has a responsibility for like the nerve currents in the body and our respiration, for the peristalsis of the digestive system, and the elimination of the food that we're eating, right? These are Vata's main governing principles within the physiology. And then we have Pitta, and Pitta is all about our digestion and metabolism on all levels. And digestion is a really significant word in Ayurveda. We are always talking about the capacity of the physiology to digest the food we eat, but we also take that to the next level and say, are you able to digest the experiences you're having? And are you able to digest, the reality that's unfolding in the world? And are you able to digest the information that you're taking in, right? We're constantly in this process of digesting everything that comes into our sense organs, essentially. And at the very core of that is the digestive system, and Pitta governs this idea of that level of metabolism. So it's on the psychic, mental, and emotional level that Pitta is responsible for. So that's Pitta in a nutshell. And then we have Kapha, which is an energetic expression that is binding and holding. And the word Kapha has a translation of flourishing. It's like flourishing water, and so this really acknowledges the water and the earth part of our physiology, and that is like all the fluids, right, that make up who we are. And so again, the idea here is that you really want to get to know your inner ecosystem. And on a simple level, right? Is your ecosystem more of a watery ecosystem, or is it prone to flooding and getting imbalance in that way? Or do you have more of a desert ecosystem that really needs a lot of hydration and that tends to get kind of hot and fiery? Does your ecosystem benefit from cooling as opposed to heating, right? These are simple ways that we can just start to learn how to kind of find balance in our life through our activities, through our food, through the decisions we make, right, to start to relate to ourselves in this light. So Vata, again, is responsible for movement, Pitta for all of our digestion and metabolism, and Kapha for really the stability and the structure that we have. So I have a visual right now that I'd like to just share to say a little bit more about these doshas and kind of how they express on a mental and physical, in a mental and physical way, I would say.
Yeah, let's have a look.
All right, wonderful. So this is Vata, and so again, Vata as governed by the elements of ether and air, and predominantly responsible for movement. But there's also this idea that the doshas have these ways of expressing within us, right? So if you happen to have a predominantly Vata organism, right, you might experience on a physical level being either really tall or really short. Vatas can have kind of an irregular beauty where it is not something that maybe is just so standard in how we classify, a beautiful person, but that there's something that's unusual and kind of striking about the way that they look. They tend to be cold in their nature. We say Vatas especially will have cold hands or cold feet at times. Vatas can predominantly be thin, and be the people that are just always trying to like either keep their weight at the place that they're at, or needing to gain a few pounds to feel like they're really in a healthy place. Vatas will have a drier hair, drier nails. They will have constipation that will perhaps plague them right throughout their life. It tends to be a tendency that they just move towards anxiety, worry. Vatas tend to talk a lot and think a lot. They tend to have really extraordinary imaginations, and on a level of kind of the psycho emotional, they're incredibly creative in their work in the world. Just in their nature, they tend to have a spiritual drive to them, just a closer connection to the divine, to the larger organizing principle of our world, and they tend to be very delicate Vatas, right? And they have a delicate nature that like will be obvious as a child, where the parents will know they have this really delicate, child, and as the person grows up in their life, they will just have that connection to themselves that like, I'm a delicate person and I need to really be careful, right? What I eat and what I engage with and what I do, right? These are all some of the expressions that can be activated when you have a lot of the air and ether as part of your physical and emotional and mental makeup in your body. So that's Vata. And next is Pitta. So that's the next visual.
Mm-hmm. Whoops. I'm not used to those kind. There we go.
Awesome. So Pitta is governed by fire and water, and the way this can end up expressing on a physical level, emotional level, is Pittas are typically of average height. They're not too tall, they're not too short. Pittas have a very symmetrical beauty, while Vatas have that kind of unusual beauty. Pittas are just very typical, right? They can have a lot of literally symmetry in their face. Their eyes can be very even, just kind of that perfect like heart-shaped face with a, beautiful smile and really straight teeth, right? This is how Pitta can tend to come across. They are hot and fiery. There can be a lot of passion, a lot of intensity that Pittas work with just in their internal nature. Vatas are cold, Pittas are hot. They tend to be really average in their weight. Pittas, may gain a little, lose a little here, but there can be this thing of like, I've kind of weighed this much, my whole life. They're more oily in their skin, in their hair, prone to diarrhea, just as, a natural kind of expression. Anger, jealousy, right? Pittas can be really critical in the way they think. There can be a lot of just intelligence and way of just mental penetration that Pittas work with, right? Well, Vatas are kind of creative and spaced out, and Pittas are like really ready to focus and get some work done. They're just born leaders. And Pittas have this way of just creating transformation. We say that, when a Pitta is in the room or on the project, right, there's going to be a transformation, right, that is experienced as a result. So this is some of the expression that comes from Pitta. And then next we have Kapha dosha. And so that's the third visual. And so Kapha dosha is, they tend to be just larger human beings. And that can look, like voluptuous, right? There could just be literally like more fat on the body. They can be large in terms of just bone structure. They tend to be just, large. And they can have a problem with kaphas tend to be the ones that can literally be looking at food and gain weight sometimes. But yet kaphas are never meant to be super thin. And I'll just say on a personal note, this was a real breakthrough for me because I have a lot of kapha in my constitution. Probably can't see it from this perspective, but just as a younger woman, right, really being concerned and always feeling like I needed to be thinner, I wanted to be thinner. And then once I learned Ayurveda, I just really was like, this is my body type, right? Like I am more voluptuous and I do hold weight, just more naturally. And it was just a really profound acceptance of myself to know that like, this was just who I am. So I'll say that. Kaphas also just have a more traditional beauty in that sense of kind of again just more voluptuous, right? Real big eyes and can have really thick gorgeous hair, and there can be just something that is really extraordinary and traditional and in that classical sense of beauty. Kaphas aren't hot or cold. They tend to be just cooler in their nature. Kind of clammy sometimes is the way that they'll describe the temperature of their body. They have a slower metabolism just naturally, right? And that's kind of what contributes to the voluptuous nature that kaphas tend to express, is they just don't digest quite as quickly as the pittas and the vatas. Kaphas are prone to depression and sadness, right? They're not getting angry or jealous, and they're not usually anxious or spaced out, but they can just kind of get into a more like a funk is what they tend to express as, and they can be really attached. Kaphas can, they say when kapha commits to something, right, they're really devoted. They say kaphas make the best husbands and wives, right? Because they're in it for the long haul. They don't like to, vary in their decisions. And so they're really stable, right? They show up and they can really hold a pace and a cadence in their life. But again, they can get a little attached and can have a hard time like getting them to think a different way or to go in a different direction once they've kind of set their course. And yet they're incredibly accountable in just who they are. So those are some, just really simple ways of kind of understanding the doshas and how, again, they're affecting our physiology, our emotional nature, as well as the particular areas of the body that they govern.
And that's awesome. We're going to take a quick pause right now. And when we come back, we're going to dig a little bit deeper how we can determine our dominant dosha and what it means to us. So stay put. We'll be right back.
In today's world, the flood of health information feels endless. But amidst the noise, two experts with over 50 years of combined clinical experience come together to help you with Smart Cuts, Biohack Your Health Span, cutting-edge protocols for greater energy and performance. Dr. Paul Sly, a beacon for athletes, weekend warriors, and those seeking to elevate their potential. And Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, renowned for empowering individuals in their health journeys. Together, they've produced the book, Smart Cuts, Biohack Your Health Span, a protocol-based treasure trove packed with actionable steps. Journey through 5 transformative sections. Dive into sleep, hydration, movement, brain health, and even the secrets of longevity. Guided by their expert hands, unleash the best version of yourself. With over half a century of clinical wisdom and innovative protocols, reclaim your health and redefine your limits. Are you ready to embark on this transformative journey? Smart Cuts, available now.
And welcome back to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat and our guest today, Emily Glaser, who is an Ayurvedic practitioner. We just covered the 3 doshas. So Emily, I was reading, trying to, which one am I? Which one am I? So how can someone try to figure out what their dominant type is and what it means in terms of diet and lifestyle when you know that?
All right, good question. So, well, first I want to say that, the doshas of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, it's a concept of a constitution. So we're always talking in Ayurveda about your kind of unique constitution, right? And that we all come into this life with a very specific expression that is unique to us. And so first, I want to say a little bit just about how the Constitution is established, because I think that's kind of an interesting consideration. And so essentially, there's many contributing factors to what gives us our unique makeup of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And we all have 3 doshas within us, right? It's just the actual distribution, right? Some of us have more Kapha and less Vata and less Pitta, right? And so it's different for all of us. And so this establishment of our constitution begins when the egg and the sperm come together from mom and dad, right? So our parents have a huge impact on who we are. What also really contributes to the expression of the constitution is the season in which you are born into, right? Were you born into the winter months or the spring months? So literally the season, but also season in terms of the life of the parents. Were your parents older when they gave birth to you? Were they younger, right? And if they were younger, maybe they had certain stresses that they were dealing with and certain intensities in their life that were just part of having a child at a young age, right? And that would impact your constitution. But parents, at an older time in life, there would be some, specifics to that would affect the expression. Was there a strain on the relationship of the parents at the time that they gave birth to you? Also, they say that the lunar day of the moon has a strong impact on the constitution, the position of the planets in the night sky. This is a little more esoteric, but it definitely is part of how Ayurveda understands our expression. So we also Ayurveda puts a lot of emphasis on mom's health in general. They really say that mom holds an extra responsibility for the constitution of the child, the reproductive organs, the health of her reproductive organs, especially important. And Ayurveda understands that there's a 3-month period prior to the conception of the sperm and the egg to really think about health. And there's this idea that, the immature egg takes about 3 months, right? Once it's released, it takes about 3 months to travel to the fallopian tube. And that this is a crucial time where what is being the diet of mom and the energetic emotions of mom are all going to have an influence on that egg and the expression that it brings. So there's a lot of evidence that shows that, lots of good practices are important 3 months prior to the conception of a child. So, and this is true about dad too. Dad's health is very important. Sperm that is being created before ejaculation is also done within about a 3-month window. So this is all taken into consideration regarding the field of how you become you, and just again what your particular tendencies are and your strengths as well as your weaknesses. So this is the way we understand the Constitution, and essentially, as far as like, who are you and what is your constitution, it's important to know that it takes a lot of examination to figure out like how this organism actually works, right? And how it gets put together. And so I always, just say to people who are learning Ayurveda for the first time or just kind of getting into this, that just have some patience, because it can take a while to kind of, figure out exactly, who you are and what your expression is. But it's good to kind of rely on the obvious things that like don't change, right? Like the height, weight. Some of the things that I went through are ways you can kind of start to think about like, oh yeah, like of those 3 that were described, I might be more predominantly this. The hair, the eyes, right? The body frame. These are really reliable ways to kind of get results. The mental stuff of like anxiety, depression, anger, jealousy, right? That can kind of change within, just depending on what might be happening in our lives. But it is always interesting to kind of go back to like, what is the default? So again, we all have expressions of all 3 doshas, and kind of depending on what season of life we are in or what season naturally is being expressed in our outer world, right? Our physical body is kind of always just adapting and changing, but Ayurveda does understand that there's a core constitution. So there are tests. I actually do have a test on my website if you want to get on there, and you can answer a bunch of questions about your your physical body and kind of your mental makeup, and that's one way to do it. The tests are reliable for some people who are more obvious. We get some people that are real obvious Vata and they just meet all the marks, but a lot of us have more than probably 2 doshas that are really kind of an expression. And so if that's your story, the test may not just be totally accurate. And so really the best way to figure it out is to see an Ayurveda doctor, to see an Ayurveda practitioner, and they take you through a pretty intensive health history called a Rugna Patrakam that takes about 90 minutes to 2 hours, and they ask you lots of questions about lots of things, and that can help to determine your dosha. They also use tongue analysis and the pulse to really confirm the true constitution.
Yeah. Emily, do you want to say your website so people can check it out and start with that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. My website is my name, so it's Emily L Glaser GLASER.com. And yeah, you'll see the dosha test under the Ayurveda section on my website.
That's great. And I'm guessing that depending on your type, then there's lifestyle recommendation and diet recommendation, correct?
So yes, Dr. Nat, absolutely. So once you understand your core constitution, then there's so much, right, that is available to you regarding there's lifestyle practices that Ayurveda can recommend, different food as medicine is a big orientation that we have, and herbal remedies, right, rituals and practices that you can start engaging with to really kind of bring balance and harmony into your life.
Well, that's awesome. And I know that your book, which I'll show again, here it is, you're focusing on women. So again, I'm sure you have some clients that are male, but Can you share with us some recommendation for women when it comes to hormonal support? Is there guidelines, or I shouldn't use that word, it sounds very restrictive, but um, a path for women to follow when it comes to hormones?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely what I'll say here is what can be true for, I think, all women in regards to hormones is just the idea of routine, and really putting into practice eating at the same time every day, going to bed at the same time at night, waking up at the same time in the morning. We really put a lot of emphasis on this idea that the body is complex and intricate as it is, right? That it needs simplicity, and the body really needs to be able to trust us, right? To trust that we're gonna, make the right decision at the right time, so it can do the work to kind of, keep the hormones in balance and keep the immune system working well. So that is a truth that Ayurveda really holds as significant, to just have, routine with these really basic practices in our life. And one of my teachers has a book that I recommend every woman reads, which is Balance Your Hormones, Balance Your Life. And her name is Dr. Claudia Welsh. And that gets even deeper into, just kind of the constitution that you're working with, and, some really kind of more specific examples and recommendations for your situation. But the overarching, advice would be to come to routine.
I love routine, so I'm on board with that. I love being habitual with what I do, and especially as I'm getting older, I find that if I veer off, I'm affected more by it. So let's talk about some practice that anyone can start incorporating into their lives to improve their well-being. Is there, again, I'm using the word guidelines, but some basic information that people could act on, right away and integrate?
Okay, awesome. I've got a visual for this.
Perfect.
So let's take it to the drawing board. Okay, awesome. So Ayurveda has this idea that we can observe the three doshas of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. We can observe them rising and falling in predictable cycles throughout the day. And so if we observe the day, right, there's certain qualities that will become predominant at specific times. And so this is how Ayurveda really looks at nature to give us clues. And so going along with this system can really set you up for good health. And it may sound simple, but it is really profound in the influence that this can have. So let's just walk through these cycles. So looking here, we see that that Vata, right, made up of ether and air, consists of the qualities of light, mobile, dry, and cold. Kapha is made up of water and earth, and that is marked by cold and moist and stable, heavy qualities. Pitta is fire and water, and it is made up of hot, dry, more unstable, spreading qualities. And we have here a cycle of a 24-hour period. And this is how the doshas move through a 24-hour period. So our first example is beginning from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. We have the expression of Vata. And so the expression of Vata from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. brings us out of the early evening or early night into the sunrise. And so there is a 4-hour period that we say these qualities of Vata are more predominant in the environment. So again, these are the qualities of light and mobile and cold. And this is a really good time, Ayurveda says, to wake up and get out of bed, to rise from sleep. So Ayurveda says it's excellent to get out of bed before or right at the sunrise, because you want to embody in your day these light, mobile qualities. And Vata also holds a subtlety to its nature. And so we also say that this time from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is the best for spiritual practice. So it's the best for meditation. It's the best for just being kind of silent and reflective on yourself. And if you're going to have a morning gratitude practice, we would ask that you do it in this hour of Vata from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., right around sunrise. So after that, we come into from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And so this is right after sunrise. And this is a period where Kapha comes in. And Kapha is not a good time to wake up, right? Because Kapha is heavy and it's slow and it's more stable. So if you wake up after sunrise, you're just going to have a harder time getting kind of the circulation flowing and the energy moving. You're going to be just more subject to feeling tired and heavy throughout the entire day if you sleep in past sunrise. So rising in the Kapha hours, you're going to have the deck just stacked against you kind of naturally. So you want to get up earlier to really be able to rise and shine. But what is benefited by this Kapha period is anything that is supported by like a methodical or stable approach. So this is a great time between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. to start your work day, to start work activities, to really get on a project, because it's going to give you this kind of steady mind, this consistency, and it's just a great time to really be productive in those hours. Then we go from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this is when we move into what is known as the Pitta hours. And this is corresponding to when the sun is the highest in the sky, when the sun is at its peak. Pitta is all about fire. And so this is the time of the day when we have the sun the highest, it's the hottest, it's around noon. And this is when we feel more hot and more intense, which can give us a great capacity to focus on detail-oriented work, to be really productive. But it's also the best time of day to do what Pitta does best, which is digest your food. So Ayurveda strongly recommends that you have your largest meal of the day between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Ayurveda asks that you eat like a king at this period. And that as a result of doing so, that the qualities of Pitta, which are hot and dry, right, they're fantastic for digestion of your food. And it's particularly due to these same qualities, right, of Pitta that is intense and focused, that we might be subject to skipping our lunch, right? Because you might be really focused on the details of a project or doing something that feels really important. And you might think like, oh, I'll just eat later. But we really recommend, especially for weight loss, if you want to eat your largest meal at this time, it can really help your metabolism. So don't get too caught up in what you're doing and ignore your digestive system. This is when the body is literally primed for hunger and digestion at this point. So really making a part of your routine in your day to eat during these Pitta hours is best. And it's also not best during this time to do exercise because the body tends to be hotter. Exercise will heat the system up, and we don't want the body to ever be too hot. That's not necessarily the best thing for the organs. So we say that it's better to exercise in either the Kapha or Vata times a day, like early in the day or later in the evening, so you don't overheat the physical system. So that is the practice from 10 to 2 p.m. And then from 2 p.m. until 6 p.m., as we continue around this clock, we come back into the Vata hours. They come back from 2 to 6. And we get the same qualities of Vata that were predominant in the wee hours of the morning. And these qualities start to rise again in the natural environment, right? And you might start feeling a little more mobility in the body. You might feel a little more agility in the mind. This can be an excellent time for engaging in a more creative process, right? Vata is known for being more adaptable, more spontaneous, more creative. So this is really what can shine during these hours. And sometimes the more negative expression of Vata can express during this time. So for example, Vata is air and space. And so you might get a little spaced out. You might lose your focus during this time. You might start to feel that tired energy where you might think you need a cup of coffee. This can be the result of not having taken proper care of yourself during the previous cycles of the day, right? So for example, waking up with the sun and having your largest meal at noon can all support having better energy during these Vata cycles from 2 to 6 p.m. So this is when you really want to, be in a place of acknowledging that you're going to experience more lightness in thinking and enhance creativity, and just naturally gravitate towards expressions of that time of day that will serve that energetic force. And then again, we come into the Kapha hours, which are from 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. And this is, again, moving back into the heavy, stable time that Kapha is so famous for. And so this is a time where we say that the expression, again, of water and earth is present. And this isn't when we want to be eating. So what we ask people to do is to actually have their last meal of the day in the very transitional period of Vata into Kapha. So right around sunset, right when that transition happens, to have your final meal of the day. Because if you wait and have a late dinner, you're going to work with those heavy, kind of slow metabolism that's going to be hard to digest your food. And so this is why you want to have a lighter meal earlier. And yet, we do recommend benefiting from these slow, heavy qualities by winding down, right? And really starting to move into the more home-oriented space during this Kapha time, to connect with your loved ones, with your friends, with your animals, to, kind of draw on the qualities of Kapha that are more compassionate and caring. And, using this time to, again, start getting the body ready for, a good night's sleep. So this is the best way to use the heaviness to get us into a place of being ready for a sound sleep. And so that brings us to our final stage, which is 10 p.m. until 2 a.m., which is when we're back into the Pitta qualities of the day. And contrast from midday, right, when we've got the heat of the sun, we still have this very kind of transformative power of Kapha that is being expressed, of Pitta, that's being expressed. And yet what this time is used for is that transformation, that digestion of Pitta between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. It's being focused on detoxifying the body. That's a skill of Pitta. It's transforming and it's detoxifying. So if you think about the body going to bed around 10 p.m., which Ayurveda recommends, it's like the house cleaner comes out and is cleaning up all the toxins and taking care of all the business that needs to be part of your healthy expression of vitality and good energy in your day. So Pitta is on top of that game. And so we say in Ayurveda that the most important hours to be sleeping are between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., that there's a quality of sleep that a person can experience during this time that can be profoundly healing for the mind and for the body. And so this is what we need for vibrant health. And yet Pitta is very focused and very energized. So if you'll just pay attention, right, you might start to feel tired around 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. But if you can kind of push it past 10, that fiery energy of Pitta will wake you up and you'll suddenly get on top of a project and start answering all your emails and, take care of business that didn't get taken care of all day, because Pitta has that energy. So you really want to be protective of that space and use that Kapha energy to get into bed before 10 so you can get a really good night's sleep and do the healing that the body can do during that time. So that is the cycle of the doshas throughout the day. And those are some of the ways that you can use this energy to really support your health.
Oh, that's fascinating. And I'm guessing, I've never been to India, but I'm guessing that people probably live their life differently if they practice Ayurvedic medicine, because they're probably looking at their days with that. I mean, I think now more people are aware that we should not eat, a few hours before we go to bed, that having your larger meal, at lunch is a good thing. So I can see some stuff that, the Western world is picking up, but I love the way it's looking at even the digestion and, maximizing even the detoxification in the evening. So it's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. My goodness, I could ask you like 17 more questions, it seems. So let's finish with just, well, first of all, again, I know I'm plugging your book a lot here, but it is available on Amazon. Strongly suggest it. There's tons of recipes from acid reflux to indigestion to ulcers. So I'm making my way through it myself, and I'm excited to to see the recommendation on that and the recipes as well that she has in there. So let's talk about, we're just turning into summer right now. Let's talk just briefly about eating for the season. So what would be some tips that you can give us going into the summer for our food?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, summer, we say that the digestive fire is actually a little more delicate during the summer. That it's during the winter that we're really able to eat the meats and the potatoes and the root vegetables and things of that nature. So in summer, you do just want to really pay attention to how you're digesting your food. And good digestion, a sign of good digestion is always like feeling light after a meal, feeling energized after a meal. But some basic vegetables that are great in the summertime are artichokes and asparagus. All the greens are always a good, the bitter taste is a good taste to have during the summer months. So foods like, cabbage, and if you're a fan of cilantro, it's a really great time to eat cilantro. Any of the, okra is good, radishes. What I always recommend people do is eating seasonally is so important for our digestion and our health, is to go to the farmer's market and to really see what's in season, right? Because you can't tell at the normal grocery store what's in season because everything's available always. So by going to the grocery store is a good way. And fruits are in abundance in the summer months. So Ayurveda is really cautious about eating fruits in the winter and focuses mainly on just enjoying the berries and the mangoes and the melons and the pomegranates during the summer months. Really engage in the fruit. In moderation, of course, we could say a lot about that, but it is a time to have fruits and just cooling foods. Mint is a cooling tea. Cucumbers are cooling foods. That's why the cilantro is so great. Anything with coconut, olive oil is a good choice during the summer. So you want to focus on keeping the system cool, right? Because the natural expression of the outer world during the summer is going to be hot. And so we want to work to stay cool within so we can maintain a balance of our doshas and use the more kind of focused leadership and transformative energy of Pitta, and not get caught up in the anger and jealousy and intensity that can be expressed during these summer months. So that's, yes, a good recommendation.
So thank you very much. And I mean, we could have gone on the route of merging Ayurvedic medicine with Western medicine and so forth. Like I said, we might have to have you on the show again to carry on the conversation. But in the meantime, for the rest of us, we can go on Emily's website and do the homework of doing the test, read a little bit more about it. I think it's widening our perspective on how we can look at our health, even from a disease point of view. So Emily, thank you so much. I've learned a lot myself, and hopefully it will have gotten people curious about learning more. So thank you for your time.
Oh, it's been a joy. Thank you for having me.
Great. So this was the episode on Ayurvedic medicine with Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp with Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. I hope you enjoy, learn, and go have fun, read more about it, and try new things. Until next time, thank you.
Welcome to Dr. Nathalie's 7-Day Hack Your Health Challenge. Transform your fitness level with 7 quick, do them from anywhere workouts. Look and feel great. Nutrition. Master the art of optimizing your diet and maximizing nutrient intake with daily nutrition challenges. Biohacking, unlock exclusive content to tap into your body's innate wisdom. Take on challenges to optimize your mindset and physiology. Ready to transform your health? Visit www.drnat.life to join Dr. Nathalie's 7-day Hack Your Health Challenge. Your journey begins now.
This has been Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. Tune in each week and uncover simple yet powerful strategies and actionable steps to elevate your health and wellness.